All right, everyone, welcome back. We're back with David Lam, partner at Miller Kaplan, who moderated the first panel today. So I mentioned before the break, but David's going to do some screen share and show how easy it is to get hacked and different strategies that they use, what to be looking out for. I think everyone knows, everyone's seen in the news in 2021, we've seen some of the most major and significant breaches of all time. So today we're going to take a look at some of the recent cybersecurity events and see how a hacker operates. It's pretty illuminating stuff. I got a sneak peek, I think, yesterday or 2 days ago. So that being said, David, I will turn it over to you, and I'll also hang on here throughout the demo.
Great. Well, thanks for hanging on. I've got some slides to go through, and then we'll go straight into the demo. I should tell you, while Matthew and I were talking at 12:10 p.m., I did get a text from Wells Fargo, allegedly Wells Fargo, that my account has been locked, which is pretty phenomenal since we don't have any money at Wells Fargo, and giving me something to click on. We do these phishing attacks all the time to try and get awareness so that people are thinking about what they click on. It's very compelling, which is kind of a good way to dive into the slides. And what I want to convey is that these are real risks. These are real risks if you're one person, if you're a random person, if you're 5, 6 people, if you're 10 people, if you're 100 people. And we talked a bit earlier about business management, entertainment industry. You've got access to many funds, likely passwords to many bank accounts, multi-factors to some of those. Highly sensitive information. It could be medical information. You're paying bills. These are high-profile contexts and just multiples of this going on. Now, I want to put this in context of vulnerabilities, and we talked about this in the panel earlier, and I want to sort of slow down and walk through the vulnerability life cycle. And what happens is that whatever system you're using, whether it's Apple or Windows or an iPhone or an Android device, whatever you're using, there's millions and millions of instructions or lines of code. And humans make mistakes, and humans are smart, so they figure out how to get the code to do things that it shouldn't, mostly take it over so it can do whatever it wants. Now, the cycle that normally happens when there's a bug is that somebody finds it. In fact, people who find this get paid sometimes $100,000 or more for finding a really serious bug in the software. And this happened in the case of what's called Print Nightmare. Now, Print Nightmare, and I'll give you an idea of just how easy it is to get to these machines. Print Nightmare was what was called a 0-day. It was discovered by someone. They went to Microsoft and said, we've discovered this. And Microsoft said, okay, we're going to put out a patch. We're going to patch it, and then we'll tell everyone about it. So you have time to fix it. That patch is a software fix, just like a patch on your tire or a patch on your pool float. And what happened in this instance, though, is there was a miscommunication among the researchers, and the vulnerability was released without anything to do about it. And so we had this problem is we had to race to get the patches applied to fix it so that someone could not come in and attack your machine. So what I'm going to do is let me switch screens over to my little hacking lab over here. And this is a lab that actually has 3 machines on it. One of those machines is right here that you can see, and it's called Kali Linux. And this is a specific system designed for good guy, white hat penetration testers to learn what vulnerabilities might be in their system. Moving across the top of the window, I've got a Windows 2008 server. This is a very old version of Windows. I'm not going to use it in this demo, but It's used to illustrate that there are serious problems with old software and the fact that people can easily attack. And then over at the very end here is a Windows 10 machine. This happens to be an unpatched Windows 10 machine to show you what the difference is between making sure that you're patching your systems and not patching your systems. We're going to demo today. So coming back to my hacking box, I brought up this one example over here. This came up on Saturday. So CISO, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, made pretty famous by their certifications that the 2020 elections did not have any hacking activity in them. They released these advisories. This one came out on Saturday. And basically what it says is, oh my gosh, there's a new vulnerability out there that hackers are actively attacking. And what was really interesting about this is Microsoft knew about this vulnerability in April, put out the vulnerability fix, the patch, in May, but didn't actively start telling people about it until July. And the reason was we wanted to get everything fixed first. So you've got this bit of time to apply. Now, what I want to show, first of all, is that your systems are not safe on the internet. So the first part is I'm going to go to this MX Lookup Tool. Y'all can join me along at home. Go to mxtoolbox.com. And I put into the domain name millerkaplan.com. We use Office 365. You all already know from the poll that you use Gmail. And we get immediately information from Microsoft that this is the IP address that you talk to if you want to send Miller Kaplan email. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and copy. Nope, that's the wrong button. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and I'm going to open up a little window. And what I want to show you is there's a command called telnet. You can see I tried this out before. Telnet is a command to say I want to talk to another machine on the internet. I'm going to talk to that internet address, and I'm going to do it on a window or a port called 25. And right now, you can see that I'm talking to this Microsoft server. And a couple of months back, we had a very bad Microsoft vulnerability called Hafnium. And if you could get to this, which anyone who gets mail, Gmail gets it too, then you could hack that server, take over what's in it. And I'll just say, just because I'm polite, I'll say hello. You will notice that the hello is spelled H-E-L-O because computer programmers had a sense of humor in the 70s and 80s, and Microsoft says hello back to me. Now, one of the questions that comes up all the time is, why me? Why are you going to pick on me? And the answer is, and I'm going to log here into this is a free scanning tool called Nessus Essentials. Doesn't cost any money. But I'm going to log in. I don't save my passwords. And I'm going to show you a basic network scan that I ran earlier in the week on my Windows 2010 box. Now, I've run it twice, once before and once after patching. So let's take a look at the unpatched machine. That's the machine that's sitting up in the corner, in my lab. And what I want to show you is there are a whole lot of red, what we call critical vulnerabilities, right? So the first thing I want to point out is this Adobe Flash Player, and we see a lot of folks in the world using this Adobe Flash Player on their websites. There's a lot of vulnerabilities, a lot of patches that weren't applied. Now, if you're on your machine and you browse to a website, they know you have this vulnerability, and all they have to do is download the file that attacks you, which I'll show you in a minute. Okay, so the first thing that you want to know is how do I attack? Well, my Nessus scanner is really helpful, and it gives me this port scanner, and what it shows me is every open port that's available to try to attack on that machine, right? And I can do this all day long. I can do this on any machine that's on the internet or any machine I can get access to. And we can see there's a whole bunch of ports, but one of those ports is port 139. And I know that port 139 is something I can attack from something I call SMB, which is the attack we're going to play with in a minute. The other thing I know by looking at my list of what all these vulnerabilities are on my unpatched machine is there are a lot of Microsoft updates that have not been applied. One of the things we talked about earlier on is that people think these patches are applied, but they're not. And so a lot of times IT says everything's okay. If you're not running the scan, you don't know. So one of the important points to take home is you got to run the scan. But now I know what I can do with this machine. So what I'm going to do is, let me now show you, I'm going to go into my Linux session. And I just want to show you just this one tool that is just crazy to me. And it's called MSFPC. Because it wasn't easy enough just to download Metasploit on Kali and install it. All I need to do is run this little command, and I say, I want you to make me an attack for Windows, MSFPC Windows. And then it says, hey, I've looked at your machine. Let me tell you where I want the attack to call back to. I just pick from the menu over here. Number 2, call back to this address, and it's making an attack called Meterpreter, which I can then send to you. There are tools in this that make it so that your antivirus can't see it. And if I send this to you and you click on it, it's going to call back to my machine and let me control it.
When you say click on it, like how would that look, say on my end?
Well, it might look just like a link. I might send you a link to a web page and you might click on it and run it.
Something in an email.
It might look like a Word document.
Mm-hmm.
We've had attacks of PDF documents and in fact, using an advanced version of this payload creator, I could create a PDF that will call back to my machine. And if your machine is vulnerable,
mm-hmm.
then I can take it over. So what I'm going to do is I want to show you this, this Metasploit Framework console. And this is the tool that we're going to use in order to go and take control of that Windows 10 machine. And I want to point out, because this is one of the things that's terrifying, that it doesn't take a lot of work or a lot of skill to operate this system. And I don't know how many of you watched the John Oliver session on ransomware on HBO in the last couple of weeks. Pretty funny. Ransomware is now available as a service. You can now go on and say, I want to go hack Matthew Hoffman. And it gives you the tool. You download it. There's actual customer service. You can text, chat, or call them, and they'll give you the tool. But what I want to show you this is I know that I can attack on SMB, that port 139. So I'm going to say, show me exploits SMB. It's going to show me a whole bunch. And then there's one particular attack I want to use. And that attack is called SMB delivery. So I'm going to type that in. It's going to ask me to load it. Loads the module in. And now I'm going to type in the very complicated word exploit. And what it has done is done two things. It's saying, David, I need you to get the following machine to run this command. And I'm now going to listen. See where it says here, started service listener? I'm going to listen here on this machine until somebody calls back. And this is what you may have heard is called a command and control machine. The command and control machine is just waiting for someone to phone home and then do what you want with it. So I'm going to take this command here. And again, keep in mind, I don't even know what this command does, but this is already a built-in Windows command. I'm not even installing anything on your machine. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to come over to Windows, and I'm just going to run that command, right? I'm not installing any software. I want you to notice I'm not getting any prompts to run or install new software. And you can see that it's thinking a little bit with my arrow, but it's not telling you anything, right? It's just done nothing. Now I'm going to close this box. Nothing up my sleeve. I just want to show plain old box, right? So I'm going to come back over to my attacking box, and I've opened this Meterpreter session, and I can tell it to show me the sessions. And now I'm going to go into that session, and now I'm able to issue commands, right? So the first thing I want to do is I'm going to execute this command calc, right? So now when I come back over to Windows, calculator is opened up. Now I can have all sorts of fun. I can do this just a few times. Yes, we're a little weird in the computer world, but I just want to show that I can just repeatedly open up this program, and I'm just filling the screen with calculator because I'm doing whatever I want from my machine to your machine. And I thought about, could I get someone who wanted to run this on the internet, but really who would want to run this on their machine? So here you are stuck with my demo machine. So I'm running that. But let me show you the thing that maybe scared me the most as I was preparing for this. This is something called Event Viewer. Event Viewer is really kind of cool because you can go into your Windows logs and you can see what's going on with your applications. Oh, look, there's an error. I wonder what that is. Now, a license didn't activate, right? And I've got these security logs that tell me what's going on, right? So I'm going to close out of Event Viewer. I'm going to come back to my Linux and make sure I'm staying on time here, right? And I'm just going to clear. I'm just going to clear the event log here, right? So there are 481 records. Here's the event log. Let's go open that up again. Event Viewer, Windows logs. What? It didn't do it this time. Oh, well. Let's try that one more time and see if I got it wrong. Access is denied. Like I see that. That's interesting. All right. So let's go ahead and do a couple other things. I'm going to go and say, okay, I want to close that calculator program. So I want it to tell me what the process is that's running calculator. And I'm going to turn off all those calculators by going kill process 3484. And then when I come back over here to Windows 10, all of my calculators are gone. So the net result is that without even installing something, and there's lots of ways to do that, I've taken over the machine and I can do pretty much whatever I want on that machine. Are there any questions that have come up while I've gone over this?
I don't think so, but I have another one actually. It's like, what if you believe that maybe you did click on a link? What would be the best practice to, I guess, mitigate, some sort of risk related to that? Sure. After? So
if you think you click on a link, the first thing you're going to do is turn off your wireless and unplug your network. Mm-hmm. Don't unplug the machine, turn off your wireless, unplug the network, because that's the best way to keep the machine in the state that it's in. Mm-hmm. Secondly, you got to go change your password. Anything related to what you may have given up. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have multi-factor authentication, you got to get it turned on. Mm-hmm. Gotcha. So I want to tie in just a couple of things that we've talked about today. And that is, we talked about HubSpot, and I want to really just, as someone who's been in technology for 34 years, it's so important to use these technology tools to improve your business and how you do them. And so this type of thing is really cool. I decided to take a look at what HubSpot's security is and to see what they've said. And a lot of times there's just nothing on the security. And sure enough, though, HubSpot has really done a good job here. And they have one of the really important things to look for is this SOC 2 Type 2 report. So props to HubSpot for doing the right thing in getting their security. I'm not saying this is everything you need, because we'll talk about that in a minute, but I want to point out how important this is. I also want to point out that all of this NFT technology we were talking about is all dependent on your authentication of yourself. So if you're not taking the right controls to make sure you're protected, you could potentially have a pretty significant issue with someone stealing those things. And there's actually been a few, comedy shows. One of my favorites, The Big Bang Theory, where they can't get the password to like $1 billion in Bitcoin. And this is where we want to make sure that you're getting the security in place. So we talked a lot about it's important to make sure your systems are patched, and that you're scanning your systems, and that your IT team or your vendor has subject matter expertise, information security subject matter expertise to respond in an incident and to patch when you're in an emergency. We also talked earlier about what are you going to do if you got to bring your systems back from ransomware. And that's also where you want to make sure you've got things in place so you can do that well. Let me switch to one more thing. And that is, there was an incident with a vendor called Kaseya. Kaseya is a tool that is used to manage other people's IT. So if you have an IT firm, and likely many of you, if not most of you do, they may be using a tool like this that gives them full control. And that full control of the system means that they can take over your system. Kaseya apparently wasn't doing the right thing, and so there were some claims made that their cybersecurity wasn't exactly what you needed it to be. And what ended up happening is that Kaseya systems got taken over, and as a result, 1,500 companies, just about 1,500 companies, had ransomware applied to their systems, meaning you have to give a password to get the systems back, or you've got to go to some restore method. And this becomes really dangerous, because if you don't ask your vendors what kind of security they have in place, you won't know. And so what we've put together is we've got these 4 questions for vendors. Now, we have a very extensive checklist of what to ask vendors as for what kind of information security they have in place. But we found a lot of the vendors didn't have anything. And so the questionnaires took weeks and we didn't get any answers. So these 4 are very, very simple. So, and I want to point this out, going back to the NFT conversation, I want to point this out that if you're buying something like a smart contract, which, automates the processes of what will happen in certain circumstances, you want to make sure that stuff's been designed and reviewed by the right people. If you buy services from an IT vendor, you want to make sure they're doing the right thing. If you're going to go use HubSpot, you want to see that they have stuff like we've seen on their website. So here's what I'm going to throw out as my offer to this group, and my contact information will come up in just a minute. If you want to ask your vendors these 4 questions, go ahead. And then you can send them to me, and I'll give you some tips on what that means. Because I was on a call yesterday, and we asked the vendor, number one, what formal security program do you have in place? And they said, we're great. I said, fine, send it to us. And when we looked at it, they didn't. They really had nothing in place that would guarantee or give you comfort that the security was in place. The second part is who's in charge and what are their qualifications? Because the person who was in charge of this vendor seemed like a very skilled IT practitioner, just didn't have those formal elements that we're looking for. And here's the big secret sauce. You really want someone else to come in and tell you how they're operating. You don't want me to tell you how awesome my team and I are. You want to go ask someone who's worked with us or someone who's really done an audit or review on us. So you want to ask them for those external security audits, like the document I showed you for HubSpot. And the final piece, which is a little bit more technical, is you want to ask what secure development lifecycle practices do you have? And what that means is, what are you doing to develop the code that's on your software, on your website? How does HubSpot tie all of their code together to make sure that to make sure that when somebody goes to their website, they can't get into your data simply from a mistake in the code. And these are just take them. The best thing you can do is ask these of your vendors, because you want to go back to Ed's statement. You want to go back to that technology six-pack and show that you're doing the right thing. So glad to take any questions. Here's my contact information. My team and I love talking to people and helping them with information security. Any questions or thoughts?
There's like 4 different ways that people can send questions. I'm checking them. David, you had said something interesting in the white paper draft that we're going to release. There's a quote, and I'm going to paraphrase it poorly, but you said something to the effect that not that you need to be super concerned with avoiding any and all hack, ever, but that you need to be secure enough from a commercially, I think you said commercially reasonable point of view. I thought that was pretty interesting. I guess, could you kind of explain a little bit what that distinction is in your mind?
So, we've got a couple of things that we really look for as to what you're doing. And Ed touched about this in our panel earlier. Mm-hmm. You're never, especially as a smaller business, you're never going to be 100%. Mm-hmm. Right? We're looking for what is expected or reasonable from a company or organization of your size. Now, we see this in like the new California privacy law, California's California Consumer Privacy Rights Act, where there's this kind of get out of jail card if you have what's called commercially reasonable security in place. Mm-hmm. Now, no one really knows exactly what that is, which is why you want to be talking to someone who has a sense of what that emerging idea is. The net result of it is that we're looking for reasonable things that don't cost a lot of money. Both Microsoft and Google have guides for what you should do to secure your systems. Both Microsoft and Google have free multi-factor authentication, right? Microsoft has free testing for doing phishing testing. So look for what those things are that you can do. It has never been better for the small business, for 2-person, 5-person, 20-person businesses to secure themselves against attack and do it in a reasonable and cost-effective way.
Sure. Not necessarily a question, but Celia Campbell just had a nice recommendation for you guys, saying that she's worked with David and Kim. Kim was on the first panel also with David for the past few years. I also have a question. Say I'm maybe a small business manager, small artist manager. What do you think? When should I reach out to you? I know you had kind of mentioned about looking at software and asking those 4 questions and then sending that over to you. Are there other examples, like say I'm starting a new firm, or hey, I've gotten to a point where I'm 8 people, we're starting to get kind of big. What are maybe some of the other instances where folks should reach out to you?
Well, we always want to talk to people as early as possible, and many times we talk to 1 or 2 person startups, and we look at how small can we start, and what direction can we get you in with your budget.
Yep.
Right. We want to at least have the conversation and go, you know what? Let's do 1, 2, 3, or let's just talk to your IT provider and make sure they're taking care of it. Or, let's do this for your first year. Let's wait for this funding. Everything, they're all little building blocks. And like Ed said, if we can just get you to exercise once a day and do a little thing, and that can be as small as just make sure you're in accordance with Microsoft or Google practices. That's the road we want to take you down. And we love having those conversations. We love helping small business. It's, the whole team really thrives on being able to help others. And thank you, Celia, by the way, for your kind words. It's very nice of you.
Excellent. Well, David, I mean, I also want to personally thank you. You were, I'm really proud of where the white paper is, and I'm excited to send that out to everyone next week. And also just for your help in putting together your panel in the morning, and also this presentation. It was really informative.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us. Thank you, Ariana, and we look forward to our future conversations.
Excellent. Same here. All right. Thank you, David.
Take care.